What's going on, everybody? It's Jordan Leandre, and welcome to the 2-Minute Advantage podcast. It's going to make a little bit more sense come the fall, but I'm your host, Jordan Leandre, and joined by Dylan Kapisky. Dylan, how you doing today?
I'm all right. How are you?
I am doing fan-flippin-tastic today. So we're going to just dive right in. We're going to talk about the Red Sox today because, like I said, the title of the podcast will make more sense come fall, and there's nothing to talk about hockey-related, so we're going to start talking about the Red Sox, and we're going to start with the fact that they're 71-32. They're the best team in baseball record-wise, win percentage-wise. They got a 5.5-game lead on the Yankees right now in the AL East. What would you say is the difference between the team this year and the team last year, Dylan?
Well, for me, they're more entertaining. That's a very basic comparison, not really analytical, but to me, it's true. Last year, I really couldn't have cared less about baseball, about the Red Sox. Not, no, you know what? It is true. I'm saying that brutally honest, but the way that they've played this year has just drawn me back, not only to them, but to the sport in general. I'm watching a lot more games, and I'm finding myself entertained by a 9-inning baseball game for the first time in quite a while. So for me, that's the biggest difference. From a performance perspective, it's the pitching. And I know a lot of people are going to be quick to point to the offense, but last year we had good pitching. Obviously Sale was good, and he had a decent people underneath him to pitch. But this year, it just seems like everybody's pitching well, except for the guy that's being paid the most. Rodriguez got off to a hot start. Stephen Wright, when he was moved up from the pen, he was on fire at first. He kind of struggled in the Seattle game, but even he was great. Porcello's been pitching like Porcello should be pitching. The bullpen needs a little help, but Kimbrel's still great, and as long as you got that, what more can you want? So for me, that's the biggest difference performance-wise. What about you?
Like I know you said that people are quick to point to the offense, but in my opinion, it is the offense more so than pitching. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I love watching as a pitcher. I love watching guys like Chris Sale dominate, Rick Porcello when he's on, watching him dominate, Erod when he's on, etc. But last year's team, talent-wise, and especially in the rotation, was virtually the exact same. The same personnel. This year's team, the offense is a lot better. They're scoring a lot more runs. They're hitting a lot more home runs.
Definitely.
And it's not even just the fact that it isn't that they had a huge overhaul in the starting lineup. I mean, they added J.D. Martinez and essentially subtracted Hanley. I know he started the year here, and he was pretty good for the first month and then sucked in May, and then he was gone. But J.D. Martinez comes in, hits 31 home runs so far. But Mookie's already matched his total from last year, or he might be one behind his total from last year. Benintendi's on pace to shatter his total from last year. Same with Bogarts, same with Moreland. All these guys are on pace to just shatter their home run total from last year. And I think it all starts with having J.D. Martinez in the lineup. He's a guy that is very likable. He's very intelligent. I mean, we've seen him sort of, I wouldn't say fix Rafael Devers, because we've seen him kind of revert back to, the struggles that he had at the beginning of the year, but he's picked up things in certain guys' swings that they weren't noticing on their own, and it turned into better performances. Like Jackie Bradley Jr. started hitting the ball harder. Granted, his average is still low. He hasn't been getting as many hits, but he's been hitting the ball, I think, the third highest exit velocity on average on the team this year, or at least in the last month and a half or so. So I think the difference between this year's team and last year's team is having J.D. Martinez in that lineup, and it's just had a trickle-down effect on everybody else.
Yeah, you mentioned something interesting there, and it's that on paper, the question was what's different between this year and last year. On paper, nothing. I mean, we really didn't change a whole hell of a lot. I mean, it's basically just chemistry. The only thing that we really messed with is bringing in JD. I mean, you look, Mookie was there last year, Benny was there last year, Moreland was there last year, Bogarts, Bradley. I mean, all these guys. All the big players this year, with the exception of JD, were on the team last year. So it's just that extra year of being a team, and now you bring in, Alex Cora, who's just found something that has been missing. He's doing a fantastic job in his first year as a manager. I think it is just that chemistry and these guys trusting each other, and it's really fun to watch. Now, another thing I want to talk about real quick, because this is, you know, gonna just this episode is just to get us off the ground. This is going to be a long running thing, hopefully. Um, but this one, because of the timing of it, we wanted to focus on baseball and hockey. You're never gonna find a good time to start a podcast that way. So we're doing it after the MLB All-Star break. That way we're not trying to do it, at the start of the hockey season when there's baseball playoffs, or at the start of the baseball season when there's hockey playoffs. So we're just doing it right after the All-Star break. And because we're doing it after the All-Star break, this entire episode is going to be focused on the team before the break. We will have another episode, hopefully coming out tonight, where we focus on, some of the stuff that's happened since. But right now, we're just focusing on the first, 98 games before the break, and then the next 64 we'll cover moving forward. Speaking of that, you said it at the top, best team in baseball, record-wise, and in many, many categories. I don't remember exactly the numbers. I don't know how big of a lead we had over New York going into the All-Star break, but is New York our biggest threat this year, or is it for best record, of course? Is it New York, or is it Houston? Is there a sleeper that we're all just kind of looking over?
I would say probably New York. I mean, not even necessarily record-wise, because I don't think Houston has much of a say in basically how the playoffs go, because if the Yankees wind up catching the Red Sox wind up having to play the wild card game, and then anything can happen in a one-game playoff regardless of who you have pitching. Right. So, I mean, you could lose a game 1-0, you could win a game 13-10, doesn't really matter, even if Sale's on the mound, but I'd say probably New York, just because the fact that I wouldn't say as hot, because obviously the Red Sox have a 4 or 5 game lead on them in the division anyway. So, but if the Yankees caught the Red Sox, I'd be genuinely concerned about having to go play a Seattle or an Oakland in the wild card game, even if on paper the talent is far in favor of the Red Sox.
Yeah, I don't know. The way that this team is playing, it's hard to imagine anybody catching us and staying ahead of us by the end of the year. Of course, right now, 4.5 up on the Yankees. In terms of best record, we're 4 games up on Houston. They would be the next closest to us. I don't think they're going to be as hot as they were the first half. I'm not saying that they're going to go ice cold, but I just think we went in with 68 wins, 67 wins going into the break.
68-30.
Yeah, so that's a ridiculous number. 38 games above 500 before the break. I don't think they're going to be as hot. I mean, looking at it right now, we're still only 38 games above 500, which, I mean, that's simple math. We've been playing at 500 since the break. So, yeah, we're going to cool down a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough. New York is really going to have to catch fire. Houston is really going to have to catch fire, and neither of those teams are really playing like they're going to. I mean, I know I just said we're going to talk about just before the break, but I mean, over their last 10, New York and Houston both 5-5, so they're playing 500 baseball right now. Sox are still a little bit over it, and like you said, playoff time. I'm definitely worried about having to play a wild card game if somebody catches us, but if we can get in and we can win the AL East, I mean, I put it a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier on the mind. Yeah, but I don't see anybody catching us, at least at the moment. Everything could change. There's still plenty of games left to play. Now, the reason that this team has been successful has been the combination of hitting, pitching, and even fielding. I mean, the outfield is the same outfield as last year, and we all know how good they are. But if you had to pick something, maybe it's players, maybe it's something in the lineup, something just overall, and I think I already know what one of your answers is going to be. What do you think this team could improve on that would just put us to that somehow even higher level than we already are?
I'd say it's pretty easy. It's probably the bullpen. I mean, it's kind of cliche in baseball that the team with a better bullpen winds up winning the entire thing. I know last year was kind of an outlier year because the Astros bullpen was terrible, but their offense was so prolific that they were able to outslug teams. But the way the Red Sox bullpen is lined up, I mean, it's taken Matt Barnes a uncharacteristically elite season for the Red Sox to kind of hide the fact that their bullpen isn't that good. I mean, Ryan Brazier's come up and he hasn't allowed an earned run yet in his MLB career. Kimbrel's Kimbrel. He's nasty. We know this. It's not a mystery. But you look at the rest of the bullpen. You have Heath Hembry, who is basically a guy that if you need one out in a jam, you put him in, and then if you give him a clean inning, he's going to completely crap his pants. Joe Kelly was unbelievable to start the year after he fought Tyler Austin, but once the whole Joe Kelly Fight Club thing kind of went away, and it was yesterday's news, he has been terrible. His ERA since the beginning of June's like 7.5. Like, it's bad. And he's a guy that was under 2 for the majority of the first half. Matt Barnes has been great. They don't really have a lefty in their bullpen. I mean, they had Bobby Pointer to start the year, and he was okay. They had Robbie Scott, and I hate him. He's terrible. But they don't. I mean, they have Hector Velasquez in the bullpen. He's been okay, but he's not a guy that I really would trust in a playoff situation. Brian Johnson. I know we're going to talk about the first half, but after a start last night, he's getting moved to the bullpen to make room for a guy that we'll talk about in the next episode. Yeah. So I won't go in depth there, but it's the bullpen. And I did tweet something yesterday. I don't know if the stats have changed because I don't remember who started for Detroit last night, but a guy that has been on my radar for a while has been Francisco Liriano. And when you look at his stats for the entire year, terrible. 4.73 ERA, he's 3-5, but he's been a starter, and I looked at his numbers versus lefties, and my goodness, he's been untouchable against left-handed hitting. 118 average, 231 OBP, 217 slugging against, 68 plate appearances, so it's a small sample size, but I mean, he's a guy that can go multiple innings, he can throw 95 miles an hour, he's got a pretty good changeup, he's a guy that could maybe be an Andrew Miller type piece, not Andrew Miller level, but a guy that could go multiple innings in a playoff game, and you feel comfortable with your chances because he has a history of playing in the playoffs. He has a history of going multiple innings. He could be a spot starter if you need him to. It just makes a lot of sense, and he's cheap. So the Red Sox don't really aren't in a position where you can give up a lot of prospects for anybody. So a guy like Francisco Liriano would be perfect in my eyes. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the bullpen is it does need a lot of work. We'll cover this in the next episode. I feel like we're plugging that next episode a lot, but it's kind of...
Watch the next episode. Don't watch this one. Watch the next one.
But, I mean, the bullpen has been especially atrocious since the break, and even beforehand. I mean, you mentioned Joe Kelly. I remember looking at this the other night, and I don't remember if I'm 100% correct, but I think in the month of April, he didn't give up a run. And he had like 11 innings pitched. He might have given up 1, but the last month and a half, he has just fallen off a cliff, and that's awful. Now, to be honest, I kind of, just from what we've discussed privately, totally expected you to say that the thing that needs improving is cut Devers.
No, no. Oh, but to your point about Kelly, through March and April, his ERA was 3.09 for those 2 months, and in May his ERA was .63. In June, 8.31, and in July 12.15.
Yeah, but in March in March he only played that one game, and he gave up 4 runs in it.
Yeah, he didn't give.
So his April stats were ridiculous.
Yeah, the 4 runs he went 11 2/3 in April and March combined, 4 earned runs, 6 hits. But in April he was one of the best relievers in baseball. In May we were talking about him being an all-star, and then June and July come, and there's Joe Kelly. There's the Joe Kelly we all came to hate.
Yeah, it is a shame too because he's a hard thrower. He's got good breaking pitches. I mean, he's a guy who should, on paper, be, pitching, just below the level that he was in April. That was an elite start to the year, but to be fair, the entire pitching staff had an elite start to the year, save for True Pomeranz, which, but
let's not talk about him.
Well, we're gonna have to soon.
That's a good point.
Speaking of the bullpen, though, when this team is healthy, because they've been plagued by injuries to pitchers. Luckily, we've pretty much gone unscathed with the big three, being Sale, Price, and Porcello. But, Pomeranz has gotten hurt. Steven Wright's gotten hurt. Rodriguez has gotten hurt. We've had to bring in guys like Brian Johnson and Hector Velasquez, bullpen guys, to be starters.
And Jalen Beeks. My guy. May he rest in peace in Tampa.
Yeah, that's a good move for us. But yeah, I mean, they've been hurt, and especially with the news of what just broke a couple days ago. If we get everybody healthy, you can move an arm like Rodriguez to the bullpen or Pomeranz to the bullpen to give us that left-handed presence, and still have a very healthy rotation. So I feel like this next part's going to be quite easy. But what's been the best part about the team?
Well, the offense, easily.
Yeah.
I mean, considering the expectations I feel like a lot of people had, even for JD Martinez, I think it's crazy because he's been one of the best hitters in baseball over the course of the last 5 years. And still, when the Red Sox were interested in him in this offseason, people were like, oh, his power numbers are going to go down because Fenway's an opposite field hitter, and he always targets right center field, and it's 420 feet, so it's kind of a poke to get it out of there. But he is on pace to destroy his career high in home runs. He's at 31 now with 2 months left in the season. It's just crazy to think about, and how much of an effect he's had on the rest of the lineup. I mean, granted, having a full year of Devers, his power, that helps. 14. He only had, I think, 10 home runs last year. He's got 14 this year so far. Mookie's already matched his total from last year. Benintendi's got 14. Bogarts has 16. Moreland was an all-star. Mitch Moreland. Mitchie Two Bags was an all-star this year. The catching situation's been gross, but I mean, that's probably one of the other things I'd say needs improvement, but that's only because they're not hitting. Defensively, they've been great.
And it's not only that. It's not only that they're not hitting. It's a cluster. We've got three guys who can catch. I mean, you got Leon, Vasquez, Swihart. Like, you don't need that many.
I mean, they've got a decision coming up soon, especially. I mean, Vasquez getting hurt. Granted, I'm never happy when guys get hurt, especially on the team that I'm rooting for. But I think it came at the perfect time in a way because Swihart, whenever he was getting looks, was terrible. Leon was hitting well, but Vasquez was starting 3 out of 5 days. So now Vasquez getting hurt gives you an extended look at Leon, who now catches, I think, 3 or 4 out of 5 days, and then Swihart usually gets the guy like Brian Johnson or Drew Pomeranz. But in his last 8 or so games, he's hitting 430. And his average jumped from 136 to entering last night was 214. I mean, it's not good. I know that. But it's almost an 80-point jump, and he went 1 for 3. Or, I mean, I know we're talking still about the second half, but he went 1 for 3 last night, so his average is better than 214. I haven't checked the updated yet, but he's been hitting the ball very well. He's been doing a fairly good job behind the plate. I know he's not a good defensive catcher, but he's not cost the Sox anything yet defensively. So I think it's good because it gives you an extended look at Swihart and Leon. Leon's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, so you need to know if you want to re-sign him. Swihart's a guy you want to know if you want to keep moving forward. And Vasquez just signed an extension, and he's been awful this year. I mean, he's been uncharacteristically bad defensively. He's not been terrible, but he hasn't been the Christian Vasquez that we all fell in love with. And then offensively, he's just been up and down.
Yeah, just to go back to your point on JD, the biggest thing for me with him is not only, I mean, obviously the guy's hitting home runs like it's nothing, but right now he's also posting a career high in batting average. He's on pace to just destroy his career high in RBIs. He's already got 85. His career high is 104. He set that last year. And last year he played 119 games. This year 97, and he's already closing in on it. And to me, it is the RBIs that are really the difference. Obviously, 31 homers. That's just insane.
Sick.
Should be 32. We'll get to that.
Next show.
Next show. Remember,
Next show
we have a show after this one. It's the next show.
It's the
Listen to
second
that one too. But it is the RBIs. I mean, when you put guys on base and you have Martinez coming up, there's a good chance they're going to get in, and there's a better chance of them getting in with him than anybody else on the team. And yeah, aside from that, I mean, you want to talk about what's working for the Sox? It's definitely the offense. I mean, I know I said the biggest difference was pitching, but easily the strength is in the guys swinging the bats. Transitioning now, kind of want to just have a little bit of fun. So what we're going to do now is, obviously at the end of the year, we have the big awards ceremonies. You get the MVPs, the playoff MVPs, Cy Youngs, Gold Gloves, and whatever. Now, we don't have fancy names for ours, but I feel we should hand out some superlatives in that same way. So let's start with the obvious. The biggest honor that anybody could get, especially when it comes from us, is who would
means
you
more
say...
than when you get it from the MLB, trust me.
Exactly. Who would you say, if you had to pick one guy, would be the team MVP?
Chris Sale. It's not even JD. It's not even JD. I mean, like we both said, that the trickle-down effect he's had on the rest of the lineup has been ridiculous. But Chris Sale, his ERA in his last 5 or 6 starts is under a half a run. It's .28.
Yep.
He's allowed 1 earned run in his last 33 innings. Over the course of the season, he's got the best ERA in the American League at 2.13. He's got 197 strikeouts and 31 walks this year. I know JD coming in and completely changing the mold of the lineup is huge, and I know it makes him extremely valuable, but great baseball starts and ends with pitching, and the way Chris Sale's pitched from the beginning of the year to this point, except for 2 starts, and they were consecutive, where he allowed, I think, 10 earned runs in 12 innings, which was not good. It was against Atlanta, and then I believe he followed that up against, I want to say the Yankees, but I could be wrong.
Houston.
Oh, it was Houston, okay. So, and I mean, the game against Houston wasn't even bad. It was 4 earned and 7. I mean, it wasn't a quality start, but it wasn't terrible. It started against the Braves with like 6 runs and 5 1/3, so that wasn't good. But other than that, you take those 2 starts out, he's got an ERA under 2 this year, and it's just, it's wild. I mean, Porcello's come back to the Porcello that, I mean, we all knew he wasn't going to repeat 2016, but he's been a happy medium between last year and 2016. I mean, he has his moments where he kind of reverts back to 2017.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, we knew he wasn't going to be 2016. We were all just praying he wasn't going to be 2017, and luckily he hasn't been 2017. So
right, and then David Price. I mean, I know the numbers aren't great, but those have just literally been because of his starts against the Yankees and then that one start against Kansas City. I mean, over the course of the year, you take out those 3 starts, his ERA. I know you can't take away starts because they happen, but I mean, but if it was a good start against Kansas City, it wouldn't have counted according to baseball Twitter. But his ERA would be around 3.4, 3.5. I mean, it's not the $31 million guy you're getting, but it's you'll live with that. And he's been good. The back end of the rotation, Miles Pomeranz, has been very consistent, shockingly. I mean, you don't really expect much from Brian Johnson and Hector Velasquez, but when they've started games, they've actually pitched really well.
They pitched above expectations. I mean, you don't expect a guy to jump up from the bullpen and give you shutdown innings the way that Johnson and Velasquez have done.
Right. And then Erod has... It's a shame that he got hurt because he really looked like he was starting to put it together. I mean, that game against Toronto, he literally had, which was the last game before the break, he literally had like his lowest pitch count of the year. He was on pace to probably go the distance. I mean, I think it was 5 2/3, 67 pitches. He went no runs. He had like 8 Ks or something like that. I mean, he was downright unhittable. I mean, it's Toronto, and I know it doesn't count, but he was filthy. I mean, and it's just sad to see him get hurt. Stephen Wright was good when he was healthy. I know he sucked against Seattle, but the Red Sox won that game, so free pass on that one.
Yeah,
thank God.
14-10.
Yeah,
Jesus. If we had to pick a either a best game or a most insane game, it would definitely be that one.
100%. 100%. But my MVP for that reason, just based on how the entire staff has done behind him and the fact that he's been the most consistent player in the lineup from start to finish is Chris Sale.
That's interesting, and I'm not just doing this just to, because I'm definitely not gonna argue against someone liking Chris Sale. That's just stupid.
Because I'd probably call you some very mean names.
Yes, and I would get very triggered, and I would go all over the social medias and tell everybody what a mean meanie head you are. But and I'm also not just doing this just for the sake of us not sounding like we're the same person, but to me, the MVP isn't just who is the best. It's the guy who adds the most to the team. And again, not arguing against Sale. But I'm also not picking JD, which I think is where you think I'm going, and where a lot of people think I'm going if I'm saying it that way.
Honestly, I'm not. I mean, I'm going to take a guess, but I'm probably wrong. But, like, low-key, I'm feeling like you're going to say Kimbrel.
Oh, no.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I don't have to yell at you. Good.
No. I'm going to go with the third most obvious option, and that's Mookie.
Okay.
Because I think all around, JD's providing the homers, and I know that Sale has been lights out, especially as of late. But you look at Betts, and he's doing it all. He's a hell of a hitter, a great fielder. He can get the ball out of the park, but he can also just shoot one into right field and get a single. It's easy for him. I mean, the best average in the game. I know that average has become a lost art because of OPS and how important that is, but batting average it still means something to me. All right.
What is his weighted runs created plus though? I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is.
What's his wins above replacement?
It's like 6.3, I think.
I don't care. That stat is irrelevant to me. But he's doing it all. I mean, he's hitting homers. He's driving guys in. He's getting on base when you need him to get on base. I think it came to an end last night, which that's not even going to be talked about on the next episode. That's going to be the one after that, so you're really going to have to stick around. But
I was right. It's 6.3.
But he had a streak going where it was like over 20 games where he was getting on base. And, that is super important. His RBI numbers aren't really stand out, especially considering how many homers he has. You'd expect a little more, but you can also attribute that to the fact that he is a leadoff guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
not even that. Hold on, sorry to cut you off, but not even that. Like, people will say that the Red Sox have one of the best offenses, so the fact he's not driving in runs is still a red flag, but in essence, he's hitting behind either Leon Vasquez or Swihart and Jackie Bradley Jr.
Right.
So, I mean, 2, 3, 4 guys that are hitting 250 or worse. So the odds of them and all their OBPs, I'm pretty sure, are under 300. So the odds of them getting on base in front of Mookie is very slim.
Yeah.
So he's up with nobody on a lot, and we've seen what he can do with guys on base. I mean, his batting average with runners in scoring position is like 368, and with runners in scoring position and 2 outs, normally guys will falter. He's actually 100 points better. So it's crazy, and people will say that he doesn't knock in runs, so that doesn't make him an MVP candidate, which is the most. I have like 4 bats over there. I want to take all of them to their kneecaps. That's what I want to do when I hear people say that.
And I understand that argument, but you've got to look at it the way that we just did. He's a leadoff guy. He's hitting. He's hitting with the worst, because, and nothing against those guys except for some of them, but when you're the leadoff guy, the guys hitting behind you are, just by the way that baseball works, the worst guys in your lineup. So your odds of driving in guys when you have the 7, 8, and 9 hitters coming up before you, they're not good. Plus, you already have that one at-bat where you can just scrap any chance of getting multiple RBIs because you're starting the game. No one's going to be on base when you're up. So, yeah, you're already one at-bat every single game. You're one at-bat disadvantage to a guy like JD who has 80-something RBIs. I just closed at-bat, so I think it was 84. But, his numbers elsewhere have more than made up for that, in my opinion. I mean, like I said, the guy is leading the league in average. That's against, Jose Altuve. I mean, he's insane. And he's a hell of a fielder, like I said. He's got a cannon for an arm that's also pinpoint accurate. Super quick on the bases, a really smart base runner. You don't often see him get thrown out like a Devers. He's just
Whew.
It's weird. I'm throwing so much shade at Devers. I like Devers. I'm one of the few people that's like, no, don't touch Devers. He actually has potential. But you know what? I also look at what's happening right now, and yeah, he might be good 3 years down the road, but yeah, right now he's in a bit of a bad spot. But yeah, Mookie's my MVP just because all around he adds, in my opinion, the most value to the team. Now, let's go the other way. If you had to pick one, who's the worst guy on the team right now?
Worst guy on the team? For a long time, I'd be picking Blake Swihart, even though I'm a big Blake Swihart apologist. I was literally crying in group chats, on Red Sox group chats, who were complaining about Blake Swihart. I'm like, he gets 3 at-bats every 2 weeks. Give him a chance, and I promise you he will succeed. And he has. Over 400 average his last 8 games. Yeah. My worst player on the team right now is far and away Eduardo Nunez. Worst player. Okay. Only because he doesn't play every day anymore because Holt's come on strong and he's hit fairly well and he's played solid second base. But Eduardo Nunez, when he's been out there, it's just been gross. Like, I feel sick watching him play baseball sometimes. I mean, last year, he was... If we did this at the end of last season and you were like, who's the team MVP, I would have probably said Eduardo Nunez.
Yeah.
Because the way he played when he came over from San Francisco last year was like Mike Trout level, minus the power and defense. But like in terms of excitement and overall performance at the plate, minus the home runs, he was way up there, like MVP level for the half a season he was here. But this year it's Eduardo Nunez. I mean, he literally provides you next to nothing. I think a lot of it has to do with his knee. I think he's playing. I don't want to say he's playing scared, but I think it's subconscious in his mind that last year he went really hard and he hurt his knee. So he's not stealing as many bases. He's not hitting for power. He's not really hitting for average. It's like 264, I think. His OBP, I mean, it's never been good, but it's under 300 right now. His defense is trash. He literally provides nothing to the point where they signed Brandon Phillips, who is 35 years old and hasn't been an all-star caliber player in like 4 years. He's still a good defensive second baseman, but his average is okay still. His OBP is not good anymore. He just doesn't provide much, but they've gotten so desperate, and a lot of it has to do with Pedroia being hurt. I mean, I guess I could say Pedroia's been the worst player on the team, considering he just hasn't been out there. Yeah, and when he wasn't good, though. But when he wasn't even performing. I mean, he's like 091, and it was only like 5 games or so. But
yeah, I think he had like 12, or no, it would have been 11 at-bats if he's hitting it 091. So.
But he got that hit, though. So that's going to keep the Pink Hats happy.
He kind of rushed back, and you could tell he was still hurt because right away he got hurt again. So, I mean, you really can't put that on him exclusively, but it also isn't. It's not something that I think the team is really going to flaunt and say, hey, look at how bad he was. But there's a reason. You don't do that. You hide the fact that he's been bad.
But my pick is definitely Eduardo Nunez, and I'm sure you probably would have guessed it would have been either Devers or Pomeranz.
Yeah, I was gonna go Pomeranz, but I don't know if it's just a case of low hanging fruit or what. But I think I'm gonna go Joe Kelly.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I was just putting him over huge about being on fire in April, but you can't have 1 month and be a star. It's got to be consistent, and you were talking about how JD's been one of the most overlooked, quietly one of the best hitters in baseball over the last few years, and that's a reason that people are really starting to take him seriously now, is because he's not just a flash in the pan. He's a guy who's been hitting the ball. He's been getting it out of the park. He's been driving guys in, guy like Chris Sale, we know he's going to throw strikeouts. We know he's going to have a low ERA. We know he's not going to give up walks. I mean, I don't remember if this was before we started or after, but we were talking about his ratio of strikeouts to walks. It's just ridiculous. But
we talked about it before, but I did mention it when I talked about him. It's just kind of like a throw-in stat because we all know it's insane, so we're just going to throw it in there because we sound like we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, right. That's an important fact for sports ball. But he's earned that reputation over years, and now people look at him as the best guy, not because he had a good season, a good month, or even a good start. I mean, you can throw a perfect game, and then a week later, no one talks about you. And Joe Kelly, just because he had that good April, doesn't excuse how awful he's been in June and the early part of July. Like, I remember there's a point when Joe Kelly would come in, you go, all right, so we're probably pretty good, and let's just get to Kimbrel now. But now, as Joe Kelly comes in, and if it's a close game, I'm sitting there a little nervous.
Yeah, I'm pacing.
I don't
like physically.
I don't trust Kelly, and I should be able to trust bullpen arms to get us to the closer, and Joe Kelly is the biggest culprit. So I think, our first half LVP for least valuable, it's got to be Joe Kelly.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, I'd say probably Kelly, especially if you're looking at guys from the bullpen, because he's been statistically the worst guy out there, which is crazy considering he was better than Kimbrel. People were starting to say, I mean, I know it's a very small sample size, but I was like reading stuff on Twitter and people were saying like, maybe we don't need to re-sign Kimbrel because we'll have Joe Kelly at a much cheaper amount and we can just throw extra money at Sale and bets to make sure they stay. And in my head, and then it's funny how as soon as people started talking about that, he all of a sudden turned back into the Joe Kelly that we had to option back in 2016 because he was unbelievably terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a good pick. And it wasn't even a guy I was thinking of because I was thinking more along the lines of guys that play more often. But that's actually definitely a good pick.
Yeah, I mean, it would have either been, for me, it would have been him or Hembry, because, I mean, this is more of a personal gripe than anything, but, went to one game this year. It was the game against Texas, July 11th. And Sale comes in, and he's dominant. It was like 12 strikeouts, and I think he went 7 that game. And then Hembry just came in, and
Hembry.
And Hembry'd all over the place, and they had to bring in Kimbrel for a 4-out save, and
which is scary.
He had to come in with the bases loaded and had to get 4 outs, and I was freaking. And
let's not forget that Hembry allowed an inherited runner to score because he walked in a run because he's allergic to the 8th inning.
Yeah,
like I think I saw his face swelling.
And allergic to throwing strikes and pitching out of the bullpen, which is what he gets paid for. So it's a little bit worrying. But luckily Kimbrel was able to shut it down. So he would have been my pick if Joe Kelly hadn't been so bad in June. And it's not getting better. Spoiler alert.
It's actually getting worse.
Now moving on to something a little bit more specific. Who's the guy you trust with the bat in a clutch situation, or who's the one bullpen arm that you can trust in a clutch situation?
Bullpen arm in a clutch situation. I don't have one, so I'm not going to pick that.
Which is a problem.
It's crazy because my instinct tells me go Betts, go Benintendi, go Martinez, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to pick Xander Bogaerts.
Yeah.
It's crazy because you look at his numbers; they're not better than any of the aforementioned players. Nope. But he has been so solid and he's been really clutch this year. Like last night. I know it's the first. I won't talk about it actually. Actually, no, because that's not going to be talked about for the not even next episode. It's the one after. So I will mention it. I will mention it. Last night, even if the Red Sox wound up losing the game, he hit an absolute piss rod off of Fernando Rodney that almost took his crooked cap with him. But like in big spots where he normally would falter in the past couple of seasons, he's not doing it. I mean, he hit a walk-off grand slam the day before the break, I made the joke about how selfish he was because all he needed to do was knock in 1 run, and he decided to knock in 4.
Yeah.
But I mean, like it's just he's become a clutch player. He has more grand slams than 16 MLB franchises this year.
Gee.
He has 3 more than the Red Sox had all of last year. Newsflash, he only has 3. But I mean, he's just been a guy that when clutch spots come up, I get excited when he comes up. It's not like last year where I'm like, oh, throw him 3 sliders, he'll strike out swinging. This year it's like, oh, you throw a first pitch slider, he's going to take it, it's going to be a ball, and then you're going to probably throw him another off-speed pitch to see if he'll chase it, and he won't, and then, 2-0, I got to throw a fastball, and he's like, and it's a missile somewhere. Even if it's not even a hit, he'll hit it hard somewhere, and it's something that's changed from last year to this year. So he's probably my clutch player, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I trust Bogarts more in late close games with runners on than I do, third inning bases empty. I mean, he's just one of those guys who it's like, if you send him out there and you say, all right, there's 1 out, it's 5th inning, we're up by 3, he's gonna pop out. It's just he's not even gonna strike out. It's not gonna ground out. Every time, it's gonna be a pop out. It's not even gonna be a fly out. It's not gonna get past the infield. He will pop it up, and it will be right in the glove of the second baseman every time, without fail.
I don't even think there's a stat for that, but don't even bother fact checking it. It is 100% accurate. It is accurate. He leads the league in 5th inning pop-ups to second base.
When the temperature is 41 degrees, partly cloudy, and the degrees are Celsius.
Jesus, that's hot.
But you put him in late game situations, and he's gonna hit the ball. He's gonna hit it hard, and he's gonna drive guys in, and that's the definition of a clutch player. And it's like you said with the bullpen. There's not a clutch arm. There's a lot in what we're going to talk about next. I think a lot of bullpen guys are going to fall into this category. But yeah, in terms of who I trust most in the clutch, it's pointless for me to waste a breath because I'm just going to repeat exactly what you said about Bogarts. So let's move on to that next category. It's one that I've personally been looking forward to your insights on. Who's the biggest choke artist on the team this year?
So it's tough to pick one because even though they're the best team in baseball record-wise, they are.
Oh, that's a great way. That's a great way to start talking about who's the biggest choke artist. You can't pick one. Meanwhile, we're talking about MVPs, and we all were just thinking of, we each had our one guy that we were going to pick. But we go to choke artists, and
it's weird.
Oh, you can't pick one.
No, it's weird because they're the best team in baseball record-wise. I mean, you can argue that in a 3-game series, the Yankees or the Astros might have an advantage. You can argue that. Yeah. But when you look at the team, I mean, the regular season, they're the best team. But in terms of choke artists, you got Joe Kelly, which is obvious. You've got Heath Hembry, which, to an extent, you can argue more against that. I think he's better when he comes in a jam with 2 outs. He can get that out to get out of the inning. He's very good at that. I don't think he's allowed an inherited runner to score in about a month or so. But you give him a clean inning and he messes his pants. So Hembry, to an extent. Kelly, definitely. Devers, 100%, is a guy that I would not trust at all in a clutch situation. Just because his plate discipline's so bad, and then and God forbid if he's on the base paths in a clutch situation, I might shoot myself. It's probably one of those 3. Nunez, probably. I mean, I can't even call him a choke artist because I don't see him in clutch situations enough. But
because Cora's too smart to put him in clutch situations.
Exactly.
You can't choke if you're not trusted to be in that spot in the first place.
And then, just based on the fact that every big game he's pitched in Boston, he has not pitched well. David Price.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I like David Price. I like the pitcher. I don't really like the person. I like the pitcher, though. But when I see him in a big game, he's slated to start the first Sunday Night Baseball game after the break against the Yankees, and I might not even watch it.
Luckily, that's in Boston, though. Because if it was in Yankee Stadium, no, that's a 15-run slaughtering, and I wouldn't watch it either.
And I know this is the second half, but Aaron Judge broke his wrist last night. Got hit by a pitch, so he's out for 3 weeks. So we won't have to face.
I mean,
So-
oh man, poor Judge.
It's bad for
I'm so
baseball, but
sad.
it really makes David Price probably
Is
happy
it?
because he does.
Is it bad for baseball?
It is bad for baseball because he's one of the most exciting players to watch in baseball. I can hate the team he plays for, but Aaron Judge, the player, is super freaking exciting. Like, the baseball fan of me is like, I love Aaron Judge. The Red Sox fan of me is like, oh, I hate that he plays for the Yankees. I love him too much.
Not even saying that just because he's a Yankee. Like, he, to me, is a guy who's only exciting when he's at the plate in situations with guys in scoring position. He isn't a guy who, if he was to lead off an inning, I'm sitting there going, ooh, I wonder what Judge is going to do. Once he's on the base path, he's completely forgettable. Not really an explosive fielder. Like, I don't know. Yeah, he hits homers,
But that's exciting. Especially in a game
fair
where,
enough.
especially in a game that people are starting to lose interest in. I mean, the baseball purists like me, I can appreciate a 1-0 win or a 2-1 game,
wins.
especially when certain guys are pitching. I mean, like, if I'm watching a game and it's like, the Red Sox are throwing out Hector Velasquez versus some bum on another team, and it's a 2-1 game, of course I'm going to be frustrated. I want to see offense.
Yeah.
These guys, Hector Velasquez has been good this year, but these guys aren't
Yeah.
good. These guys aren't, like, elite pitching, so you want to see guys just torpedo the ball all over the ballpark and watch an 8-7 game or a 10-9 game. But when it's Sale versus, like Severino,
Verlander or
Sale versus
yeah.
Verlander, I can appreciate a 2-1 game because those are exciting because you know that both of them are going to be throwing their wipeout breaking balls, electric fastballs, are going to be striking guys out left and right, not a lot of walks. It's just going to be exciting. We just completely went off topic from choke artists, by the way.
Well, it's because the choke artist is something that you don't want to talk about, so you're trying to get away from it.
That is true, so quickly mention it before people lose interest. All 2 people watching, and those 2 people are you and me.
Yeah, we're the only ones watching. Everyone else is listening.
That's a good point. Fair enough.
Hopefully they're listening and they didn't just tune us out already. But
they're like,
my
I really
choke
can't wait
artist-
for the second episode.
That one sounds great. They said they're going to talk about stuff. Yeah, my choke artist, and I know I just crapped all over Joe Kelly, but in terms of who do I absolutely not trust playing in close games late, it's Hembry. Like you said, he's a good guy for
And now,
for 1 out. For 1 out. But even if you not only in a clean inning, but if a guy starts the 7th or 8th inning, gets an out, but then puts 2 guys on, no thanks. I still don't want Hembry. I'd rather the guy try to work out of it on his own because I just don't trust Hembry with guys under 2 outs. So that to me is what is a choke artist, is a guy that you don't trust to be in that clutch situation. Now, I do want to move on to our final thing here, which I guess we really should have ended on a high with an MVP, but we kind of already did that. So this is a guy who, and the only reason I'm kind of foreshadowing here is because I feel like it's almost too obvious. But this guy hasn't really been mentioned today or on this
is that
episode.
sarcasm?
No. But who would you say is the best fielder for the Sox?
Oh, that's definitely an easy one. Jackie Bradley.
Yeah, there we go.
100%. I mean, you could pretty much pick anybody in the outfield because but like Jackie Bradley Jr. is so far and away the best out of like those 3 positions, but like Mookie won the best defensive player in baseball last year and I think the year before too. Benintendi has played the monster like a guy that, granted, Manny was a shitty outfielder. Sorry, I can't swear. My bad. A pooey outfielder. Pooey outfielder. He was very bad, but he could play the monster very well. Benintendi is Manny level of playing the monster. He's a better outfielder by far, but playing the monster, it's Benintendi. I mean, they have the best defensive and offensive outfield in baseball, consistency-wise on both sides of the ball. But it's an easy pick to pick Jackie Bradley Jr. just because it seems like every single night he makes a play that you're just like, oh, that's why he's playing. Because at least with Mookie and Benintendi, if they make an error or a ball that they probably could have caught if they maybe got a better read on it or they slid for it or whatever, they'll make up for it at the plate. But Jackie Bradley, I know he's been hitting the ball hard lately, but his average is under 210. But you watch him play center field, and you're just like, I could watch that for a few more years, even if you have to pay a little extra to keep him. Like maybe, I mean, I wouldn't go overboard, but you have to pay him a little bit, and you're just like, dude, I could watch him play the outfield. I could watch him play his entire career in Boston in center field. Maybe instead of pinch or DHing for the pitcher, you DH for him. But it's beside the point. But he can field with the best of them in baseball, not just on the Red Sox.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Maybe let's end it on a bit of a hot topic debate. Do you want to talk about the potential move of the designated hitter going to the NL as well?
I mean, we can.
Yeah, let's do it.
You can start it off. Oh, you didn't pick your best fielder.
Spoilers. It's already been said. It's JBJ.
You sure you don't want to pick Swihart? You sure? Are you sure? I mean, Hanley did play first base a few games before getting DFA'd. Are you sure you don't want to pick Hanley?
I mean, low-key, I could pick Brock Holt because he plays everywhere, but whatever. I'm going with Bradley because he's got the greatest arm in the history of arms. And, wow, that's a really strange sentence. But you look at highlight reels of the best defensive plays for the team this year, and, like, at least 70% of them are Bradley just doing something that just makes you go, wow!
Oh my god!
Yeah, and he never messes up. That's the thing, is you can have a guy who makes flashy plays, but then, you know, he'll miss a weak grounder. But Bradley just doesn't mess up at all, so yeah, he's my best fielder. But moving on now, and this, I swear, we're going to actually finish the episode now. Last thing.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the NL DH debate. I don't like it one bit. It makes the game feel completely uniform. There's no difference between the American League and National League, and I know the argument for that is going to be, oh, well, there's no difference between the AFC and the NFC. Yeah, and I hate the way that the NFL structures their leagues. I think it's stupid. It's redundant. It's the same game. All they do is split it up so that you can have two teams from opposite conferences, whatever that means, play in the Super Bowl. And if you do that in baseball, you're better off either going to an Eastern-Western thing, which I also can't stand, or just get rid of divisions and get rid of conferences and leagues and whatever, and just have a straight-up, the MLB is made of 30 teams, and the top, 8 to 10, because you gotta have the wild cards, top 8 to 10 teams make it to the playoffs and fight it out from there, and you just, seed it like it's college basketball. But, yeah, for the DH debate, I don't like it because I love the DH rule being AL only and in the NL because, you know what? I get excited watching pitchers hit. I think it's hilarious. I think, you know what? Make hitters have to pitch an inning in the AL. I mean, come on. If the argument is, oh, well, the NL doesn't have a DH because they have pitchers hit, it's like you still have to have somebody ready to hit when your pitcher is done. So, what's the difference? So, no, I'd rather still be watching pitchers hit because otherwise interleague games mean nothing. It's just another game of baseball. You're not seeing a different style. And I think that separation is important. Otherwise, a game that is already losing interest is just going to be completely watered down. Every single game is going to feel the same. And baseball is just going to be like every other sport.
Right. I mean, in my opinion, if they were going to change anything, I would take the DH out of the American League, rather than put the DH in the National League. If I had to change one, as I like the game the way it is now. I mean, if you put the DH in the National League, Rick Porcello doesn't hit a 3-run double off Max Scherzer.
Yeah.
Going into games that the pitcher is probably going to go over. I mean, if he gets a hit, it's probably a meaningless single. But when they Like, I love watching. I'm a nerd about baseball, so I will like literally go on YouTube and I'll type in pitchers hitting home runs, and I'll just watch like a 10-minute video of watching like these no-name pitchers hit a ball about 450 feet.
Right.
Like the hard on I got watching John Lester bat flip after hitting a 3-run home run a couple weeks ago. Like, I like almost cried. I was like, that is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. So I like watching pitchers hit. Mainly because if they can't hit, it's must-see TV watching them swing the bat. Like, Bartolo Colon, watching him swing the bat is hilarious. And then he hits a home run, and it's like baseball history has been made.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is you talked about the Porcello double and then, like, the Lester home run and, you know, Colon. It's like, when the pitchers do hit, and they hit well, that's a moment. Like, that's a moment that, you know, you see highlight reels of. You see it in, you know, SportsCenter Top 10. You see it MLB Network, everywhere. It becomes, because it's so rare, even the way it is, because it's so rare, it's so important when it happens. And if you take that away, then it's just, oh, look, the guy who they pay to just hit. Like, of course he is. Of course he did. That's not exciting when the guy who's just a hitter hits the ball. So yeah, I think leave it the way it is. It means that the American League means something and the National League means something, rather than just these are two leagues who we split up for no reason. And then the whole thing becomes completely uniform and completely watered down and, quite frankly, boring.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and I agree in that regard. So, like I said, the only thing I would do is, if I had to change a DH rule, would be just remove it entirely and force hit pitchers to hit. I wouldn't. I mean, if you're a big fan of offense, I understand wanting the DH to play, but there's no guarantee. I mean, baseball is a weird game. There's no guarantee that if you add the DH, it's going to drastically change the offense. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure like run averages for each team would probably go up, but probably not enough to the point where you'd be like, oh, okay, that was effective. Like, I mean, maybe like half a run a game.
Yeah.
Because there's no guarantee that the DH... Because the DH, he might go 1 for 4 with a 3-run homer, but that same guy might go 1 for 1 pinch hitting for the pitcher in the 7th inning with a home run.
Right. And so how many times has a guy like JD gone over? Like, it's not a guarantee that the guy who you pay to hit is going to hit. Like,
right, and I mean, some pitchers can hit, too. Like Madison Bumgarner, I know his average is always low, but that's only because he hits 1 out of every 5 days. But the Giants literally went to Oakland and didn't use a DH. Because Madison Bumgarner was pitching.
Yeah.
I mean, in some situations, pitchers will pinch hit for position players. I mean, like, it's a rare sight, but I don't think if you added the DH to the National League, it would drastically change offensive output.
Yeah.
Enough to be like, yeah, that was probably a good idea.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, we're closing in on an hour here, so I think it is time to wrap up this first episode. Thank you guys very much for downloading and listening to this. We have been Dylan Kapisky and Jordan Leandre, but together we'll be known as the two-man advantage going forward. We're going to be back with episode 2. Second episode.
Think you've heard about it.
The next one. I don't know if you know, but we're going to have a next one. It's going to hopefully come out later tonight. And it's going to be talking about the first 7, well, 6 and a little bit. I don't know.
Baseball.
There was
baseball
rain.
After the All-Star. It was not good baseball.
I know that there was rain. We're probably going to talk about the weather more than we're going to talk about baseball, but it's going to be fun. So
I'll be ranting.
So join us for that as well after you, well, not after, you're already at the end, so you've already listened to this. Anyway, I'm Dylan, that's been Jordan, and we'll catch you next time.